Welcome, everyone. We want to make sure we have as much time as possible to discuss the issues at hand. So if you could get settled here quickly. My name is Andy Linton, and I'm the Ombudsman for the county. To start the meeting off today, we want to give a little bit of time to representative from Reigning Grace Ranch. Whoop whoop is right, yeah. It's very generous of them to allow us to use their facility today, so. She's coming.
Good morning, everyone. How are y'all doing today? All right. Good. Thank you so much for coming out. I know it is freezing out here. But we're glad you brought your jackets. So my name is Sage. I'm actually the barn manager here at Reigning Grace Ranch. I've been here about 2 years, and I will tell you I have nothing but good things to say about this place. We're a 501c3 equine rescue and kids therapy ranch. So we primarily specialize in equine assisted therapy with kids who have been in trauma, the foster care system, or just at risk. We also do life coaching and a bunch of other things, but we're also a equine rescue. So all 80 horses you see out there are all rescue horses, from Secretariat's grandbaby all the way to Charity, who was a Budweiser horse. I'm gonna pass it over to Misty Mann here. She is our program director, and she's gonna let you know a little bit about what's coming up here at the ranch.
Hello, y'all. Thanks for being here. We have different types of programs here that we love to help kids just develop skills, create discovery, and just help get the kid further. We really do have a lot of foster, at-risk kids come here. So we have one-on-one mentorship, kind of like a big sister, big brother type of program. So that really just helps get the kids out here and just have an experience on the ranch. We have private lessons available, semi-private. We have volunteering opportunities if you want to come and serve here. But it's just a great way for kids to come here. We also do EGALA therapy, so if you feel like somebody needs some equine assisted therapy, we do have that here. So is there anything else that I should?
Quick housekeeping. So as you guys walk around, we know you saw the horses. You are welcome to go up, pet them. They'll come up to the fence. They'll love it. Please don't give them any treats or go into the actual paddocks. Safety reasons, obviously. The bathrooms are to my left here. There is 2 keys. They're very hard to miss because they've got big blocks on them. Keep those in the doors if there's no one in them, and then use those to unlock, take it in with you, and then bring it back out when you're done. That way we don't lock any keys in there. If we do get locked, just let one of us know and we will go unlock it. And that is it.
Oh, one more.
Oh, yes.
Can you please tell everybody about how they can donate?
If anybody would like to donate or even wants to know more about programs and what we have to offer out here, if it's volunteering or if you thought of a kid or adult that would love to come out here, we do have a card with the QR code that will send you right to the website.
And we are eligible for your Arizona tax credit, so.
I heard a couple woohoos and applauses for Reigning Grace Ranch. Thank you. Thank you so much again to Reigning Grace Ranch. Very generous of you to allow us to use the facility today. Just for those of you who arrived maybe a little bit later, we do have a sign-in sheet. You don't need to come forward now to sign in. You can do that as you leave. But if there is information we need to follow up on with you, we'd like to have your email address and know who you are so that we're able to do that after following the meeting. In addition to that, we have index cards that you can write your questions and comments on. We have a pretty good stack right now. I think most of the questions and comments are probably addressed in the stack that we have, but if you'd like to fill out an index card to see us address something today, we have those cards up here up front. We've allocated 1 hour for the meeting, and we want to make that time your time. So we want to jump right into the questions and comments here. The purpose of this meeting, of course, is to learn as much as we can about your concerns. We want to hear directly from you the concerns. I think we have a pretty good understanding of what the issue is, but there's something about hearing it directly from residents I think is of tremendous benefit to us as we move forward with this issue. This meeting, as you know, is for proponents of the DWID And again, we want to have an uninterrupted viewpoint from the proponents of the DWID for this meeting. We're not checking DWID proponent cards at the door, DWID opponent cards at the door. So we understand that we probably have a mix of people here today, but just for purposes of this meeting, we'll only be addressing the questions and comments from proponents of the DWID. And then of course, from 12 to 1, we have our meeting with the opponents, and we'll be addressing questions and comments from that group at that time. We also understand that there might be other questions outside of the water issue that you'd want to see addressed. I left a huge stack of my cards over here on the table. We want to stay on topic with the water issue today. So if you have questions about other issues related to the county, drainage, building permits, those kinds of things, feel free to use me as a resource to be able to get you answers to those questions. But we do want to stay on topic with the water concerns today. So with that, those housekeeping items, I'll go ahead and give the microphone to Supervisor Galvin for an introduction.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, and if there's any seats available, raise your hand and point at it. So if anyone wants seats, you can go over and sit down. And feel free to keep going over and grab those seats while I'm speaking. First of all, thank you to the ranch for having me here and hosting this meeting for the community. And most of all, thank you for all of you for coming out this morning to meet with me as well. I'm Tom Galvin. I'm a supervisor for Maricopa County District 2. I was appointed on December 8th, not even 2 months ago. It's February 4th. But I just want you to know, in addition to ramping up and learning as much as I can about being a county supervisor for a district that has about 900,000 people, I've tried to learn and work on as hard as I can on this issue, because if I've said repeatedly to the folks that I've met with, to the news media, that for me this is priority number one. And I want you to know that I was well aware of the issue with the Rio Verde Foothills when I was applying. I knew what the problem was, but since I've been appointed, I've tried to learn as much as I can about the facts, the issues, the arguments. Since the day I've been appointed, I've received hundreds of emails from all of you, and I can assure you I've read every single email. And I did, once again, read them all yesterday. And I want to thank you for all of the emails you have sent, because in my career, I have spent 4 years working at the Arizona Corporation Commission, dealing with issues all around the state, many problematic issues. And also as an attorney, I've dealt with a lot of various, hard issues as well. But the emails that you guys have sent, on the most part, and I want to thank you for them, have been respectful, thoughtful, and well written. And I've learned a lot from the emails, and I really want to thank you, all of you, because you've made really good points. On the other hand, some of the emails do indicate that there's a lot of division in the community, and I understand that. People have concerns on both sides, and a lot of times people will send me screenshots of Facebook posts or other social media posts, and I get that. I understand that. That happens in communities where people disagree. However, I think going forward, I like all of us to work together, and I like to see both sides in some way, shape, or form a consensus. And I really feel like that's my job here. I feel like my colleagues here at the county, that's our job as well. What I would like to see is a united community. On the other hand, I think there's some very important issues here that is my responsibility and the county's responsibility. And so I think about Ronald Reagan when he said the 9 most dangerous words in the English language is, I'm from the government, I'm here to help. Well, in that vein, I'm Thomas Galvin from Maricopa County, I'm here to help. So, with apologies to Ronald Reagan, in some way, shape, or form, you're looking to your county government for help. And I'm going to do that. I pledge that to you. The other thing that I've learned about this issue, and I'm going to wrap up quick because this is your time, is that you guys have been dealing with this for years. This is a years-long issue, and I completely empathize with you. And I really do think it's a shame. And I also think it's a shame that you got a letter notifying you that you're going to get cut off. And unfortunately, because there's a new supervisor, I find out that the deadline is this year, December 31, 2022. So that means that time is of the essence. I get it, I understand it. And so I think you guys have a question. One of the questions is, when are you going to make a decision? That's a valid question. So for me, the 3 main points are, what is going to be the source of water? How much is it going to cost you? And is that source of water going to be long-term and sustainable? Right? I understand that you guys, have a cost of water that you pay for right now. I don't want it to be super expensive. I don't want what I call rate shock. Now, there might be a chance it might be more than what you're paying, but maybe I think you guys might be willing to pay somewhat more if you know that we have a long-term solution. Yeah. But I just want you to understand that those are the 3 priorities for me. And so if I do, and when I do come to a decision or make a recommendation to the board on what's going to happen, I'm going to look you all in the eye and say, this is why I did it. And I hope, and I'm sure that not all of you will be happy with my decision, maybe not, but I just want you to respect the reasons of why we did it. And because you will know that I did it because I researched it, I studied it, I asked questions, I met with folks. And I want to thank people like Karen here today who represents the DWID. And I want to thank you for the hard work that you're doing. Everything that you're doing. You are working hard for your community and you're fighting for your community. And I want everyone to give her a round of applause. I watched the hearing where you presented to the board last year. I watched that hearing several times, and I know that it's been tabled. I think after dealing with an issue for several years, and I've been here less than 2 months, I think we are closer than ever to a decision, but I don't know what that decision is yet, and that's why this meeting is happening today. But on the other hand, I owe you an answer soon. And so a lot of questions will be, what is the timeline? I hope within the next 3 months that we have an answer and we have water for you guys, okay? I hope that, all right? And so I'm not guaranteeing it, but that's my hope and that's what I'm working for, okay? And you guys deserve that. So in that vein, I'm always available. I read all your emails. Thank you for the emails. Once again, they're fantastic. I'm looking forward to hearing everything today in this hour about arguments in favor of the DWID. Jen Prikorsky is going to be very good at answering the technical questions because she's been very good at answering them for me because she's been working hard at this. And it's nice to meet all of you. Once again, thank you for having me. This will not be the last time I'm here, and thank you so much. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
And also, everybody, please give a round of applause to my entire team, our team, Jennifer. I mean, I can't name all of you right now, but thank you, everybody. We couldn't have done this. It takes a village, and we've been blessed to have a great team. Thank you.
Okay. So now this is your hour. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we have a good stack of cards here, and that's going to pretty much dictate the format of the meeting. We're going to go through the comments and cards. Again, if you have comments, I invite you to come up and get an index card and fill out the card with your question or comment, and we'll address that today. So I'd like to first introduce Supervisor Galvin mentioned we have Jen Prikorsky here with us today. Many of you know Jen. She's the Assistant County Manager, and she's going to be addressing quite a few of the questions I think that I've read on the cards here today. So the first card and the first question that we have here is, the opposition has threatened to bring litigation against the DWID if it passes.
Yep.
Then the water will be on hold. What is your plan to contest this?
Thank you. Nice to be out here again with all of you folks. I will do my best, as Supervisor Galvin said, to answer these questions. If I don't have an answer, we are keeping copies of all of them, and we will certainly get an answer and send it out to this group afterward. So if you haven't signed up, please sign up, because that's our best way that we have to communicate with you. As we have heard the same thing, that the opposition plans to contest the DWID if it is formed. And that is one of the reasons why I understand it's very frustrating that this process takes so long and is so deliberate. But we have to evaluate the statute, to evaluate the proposal that comes before us, and we work closely with county attorney to determine if the proposal meets the statute. And that work has been ongoing with the county attorney. And then if there is if the DWID is formed and the opposition contests that at a later date, then we would work with the county attorney to develop a response at that time. So unfortunately, I can't give you any further details than that, but that's the process we would take.
Okay, I think I have quite a few cards with the same question. I think Supervisor Galvin touched on it just a little bit. When will the Board of Supervisors put the Rio Verde Foothills DWID on the agenda? So I think he expressed, and I don't know if Supervisor Galvin or Jen, if you want to comment more, but I think he expressed that the hope is to have it on an agenda in 3 months. We as staff are aware that there are a number of steps that have to occur before it gets onto agenda. There are a number of notification requirements with timelines associated with that. So in anticipation of when we want to have it on the board agenda, we will be working hard to make sure that we start the clock on those timelines and notifications. You might recall that back in, I think it was November, the DWID went before the board and it was continued indefinitely. In August, I'm sorry. It was continued indefinitely in August. And so in the spirit of transparency, we want to make sure that those interested in knowing when this is going to be back on the agenda are informed through a notification process. So we want to notify the entire community when this goes on the agenda so everyone is informed and aware.
And just to add on to what Andy said, the item was continued indefinitely. So when it is not continued to what we use the term date certain, which means we set a specific date for it, then it has to be re-advertised. And it's a two-step process. You have to have it on two different board meetings. So you have one board meeting where you set the public hearing, and then there's a board meeting that is the public hearing for consideration of the DWID. So with the newspaper ads that have to go out, a mailer will go out to the entire community again. The process will take about from start to finish, about 7 to 8 weeks. During that time, we would need the official final petition list. The petition list that we have now was the original one with about 175, 77 names on it. So we would need the most up-to-date petition. The superintendent of streets would go through a process to verify that all people that signed were property owners and create the new, basically, staff report that goes to the board.
Thanks, Jen. Next question. Does the DWID have it in writing, or do they have a document that Scottsdale will provide us with water after the cutoff date in 2023 if we are not up and running? So I think it's pretty well understood that once the DWID is formed, there's a process that has to happen before water is actually delivered to the community. And so there's an interim period there in which the community is still going to need water. I think Karen and Jennifer can probably speak to this better than I can. I did read yesterday from a public information officer at City of Scottsdale that if an entity is formed and they've secured water, that Scottsdale would at that point consider an interim solution until the community actually saw the water that was coming in through the DWID or whatever other solution there is. Does that sound accurate, Karen?
So we are talking for interim sources of water. Scottsdale's been fantastic. They've been a great neighbor. And they will work with us on January 1st, 2023. We had a meeting with Brian Biesmeyer just 2 weeks ago and confirmed that with the district goal, we want to get approved as soon as possible. But if we got approved, then we would work with Fort McDowell or other sources for a short-term supply for 23, 24, and possibly even 25, because the long-term source of water will take a while to get here. But that is in the works, and he absolutely, Scottsdale's going to be a partner in that.
Thank you, Karen. Okay, next question. Why has the Board of Supervisors not approved the petition to establish the DWID when both requirements, as per law, number one, required signatures, and is a public necessity? When it meets both requirements. Number one, the required signatures, and two, is it a public necessity?
I can take that from a staff perspective and staff analysis, and one of the things that we work with the county attorney on. The statute says that the two things: you have to have the number of valid petitioners, and then it also says that there has to be findings that the DWID promotes public convenience, necessity, and welfare. And there are currently about 4,100 parcels in Rio Verde. About 2,000 of those parcels have improvements on them. Originally, when the petition came to us, it was, kudos to this group for getting out ahead of the situation. The petition came before Scottsdale had sent the formal water shutoff notice, and there was about 177 signatures, 177 parcels on that. At that time,
there's over 500 now.
yes, that's what I understand. There's over 500. At that time, City of Scottsdale had not sent an official shutoff notice. There was rumors at the time that Scottsdale would then shut off hauling once the DWID was formed. And there was concern if that happened that there was a big segment of the community that would not have water. So that made a finding that the public convenience or welfare was met. That was difficult at that time. Since then, Scottsdale has turned the water off. You have additional people that have signed up, but there still is a big gap between the number of parcels and the amount of people that have signed up. So that analysis, is still going on. There's other components to that analysis that we will look at, and that is cost. The petitioners will present their costs to us. There are also questions about the long-term plan for the DWID. If the Harquahala water doesn't come through, what are the other options? Those are the things that we look at from a staff perspective to understand the totality of once the DWID is formed, the DWID is formed. What happens after that is what we try to determine if that public necessity, convenience, and welfare is met. So that's the process that's going on. We appreciate all of the info that Karen and Jennifer have provided, and we will continue to do that, which Supervisor Galvin has committed to as well, moving forward and doing it as quickly as possible.
Okay, next question, and I think this is an important question that we've gotten quite a bit from the community. This card says this is over a 4-year process. How can the county keep allowing construction with no available water source? So very, very valid comment, and I'm going to give it to Jen to answer this one again.
So that's a question we get all the time, and I watched your meeting with Representative Kavanaugh, and he did a great job of answering that. For those that weren't at the other meeting with Representative Kavanaugh, state statute allows people to split a lot 5 times, and they can split a lot 5 times, leave 1 lot, split the next 5 lots. That is not against the law, and the state statute also allows folks to build on parcels that don't have water. And the county, as a subdivision of the state, cannot enact any law that is stricter than state statute. I understand Representative Kavanaugh said at the meeting that he would like to change that legislation, but did not feel that he had the traction to do that at the legislature.
Hey everybody, I also want to make a point on this because this is what I consider to be a parallel issue to the water issue we're here today. And as you heard from Jen, this is something that would need to be changed at the state legislative level. But I think this is something, if you're pro-DWID or anti-DWID, I think this issue of lot splitting is a concern for everyone here, right? If you raise your hands? Yeah. So I absolutely believe in that. And so I just want to let you know, I have a background in commercial real estate development. My dad was an architect. My brother works in real estate. I come up from a real estate family. But I don't like the term when someone says I'm pro-developer, because for me, I'm pro-market. And so I think it has to be appropriate for the market. So if it's not appropriate for this market, and I understand that for you guys, and there's a concern, what I'd like to do is work with everyone here, whether you're pro-DWID or anti-DWID. Once we get past this issue and we hopefully have a good solution here, is that I want to work with all of you to see maybe what we can do with the legislature to make sure that there's a statute here that is appropriate for the Rio Verde Foothills. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay, thank you.
Okay, next question. How do we protect our aquifer for well owners? So those of you, we've heard concerns from those of you who own wells, and I think the community has a pretty good understanding of the geology of the area and how sometimes spotty, these are stories that I've heard from you all as residents, how spotty sometimes the reliability of the wells can be, especially in certain areas of the community. So how do we protect the aquifer for well owners? The proposal that I've heard from the DWID is, and I think if we're looking for things that we have in common on both sides, like Supervisor Galvin said, I think it seems to be a common common thought that an outside source of water would be best for the community. We want to bring in an outside source of water to supply the community, for those of you who have hauled water. And as opposed to putting more, I think the term I'd use is more straws in the ground to continue to deplete the aquifer. So I know that's the goal of the DWID. The community's made it very clear that that's what would be much preferred, is to have an outside source of water brought in. It's important to note too, I think, that individuals who choose to drill wells, those wells are exempt. So in theory, and the county doesn't regulate this, these is all things that we've learned over the course of dealing with this issue over the course of the last couple of years. But everyone has the right to drill an exempt well on their own property. So every individual property owner here could, in theory, drill a well. So I think it's an important point to make, is that right now, individuals could drill wells on their property. So that's just per state law. Jen? Okay.
This one's blue on the ground.
Okay, I have the same question on both cards, coincidentally. What is the DWID going to cost? What is the projected price of water after the DWID is formed? And we have, the DWID has been very, Karen and her group have been very transparent about what their plan is. We've had, looked over the plan and the viability of the plan at the county. I don't have any specific costs offhand, Karen and Jennifer. I know that the cost, Karen and Jennifer both shared with me that the cost continues to change a little bit. I know there are municipalities that are currently vying for the water in Harquahala. And so I know as there is less water, I can only assume that water might go up and that the cost might increase. And I think that's one of the reasons Karen and Jennifer have been very clear about that. That's one of the reasons that getting a decision on the DWID is so urgent. Karen, did you want to add anything specific to that?
Since Harquahala is already contracting with City of Queen Creek, and they got a discount because the original group, they're getting it for 6,000 acre foot. When we talked to Harquahala, they told us 7,000. Now, I'm going to reiterate here. It may not be Harquahala. Maybe we're going to find a different source, because there's a lot of other sources cheaper. But hopefully there'll be something else coming up. But Harquahala, if we go with that, it will be, we have redone our cost estimate to be 10,000 per acre foot, to see if we could still afford it. And we can still do that at the $10 per 1,000 gallons. And that's with 1,000 gallons the first year, and then $10 per 1,000, or $1,000 for the first year. And then after that, it's $16 a month is your monthly fee. And then it's $10 per 1,000 gallons. We actually have spent a lot of time this week working on a cost analysis, and it could possibly be going later. We are not committing to that until we verify with the USDA and some other organizations, make sure we meet all their guidelines.
Thanks, Karen. I also thought this would be a good opportunity to, and I'm sure maybe Karen has explained some of the Harquahala water situation, but for those that don't know, in Harquahala, if land has been irrigated, there is since I think 1980, I don't remember the date and statute, there is the ability to transport that water to outside of that subbasin. And the transport of that water goes into the CAP canal and then is delivered to Queen Creek, or in this case Scottsdale. There, as Karen alluded to, there are a lot of steps that need to occur before that water starts running. One of them is the buyer of that water has to get into an agreement with one of the landowners out there that has this water. Once that agreement is in place, like in Queen Creek, the next step is, and some of these steps will be sequential, next step is that ADWR has to do an analysis to determine how much water can be removed from that aquifer. The ADWR estimates that will take about a year. Secondly, EPCOR is going to be the provider that is going to take the water from that ground by drilling wells, developing the treatment system, and building the pipes that are going to move it to CAP. So whoever buys water from Harquahala will have to also enter into agreements with EPCOR to move that water. The reason why EPCOR has to treat that water is because there are water quality issues in that area, and the Indian tribe is either in or threatening litigation with CAP for water quality issues, which will have to be resolved prior to water moving. There have to be a NEPA analysis. If it's an environmental assessment, that goes quicker. If it's an environmental impact statement, that could be several years. So the CAP, then you'll have to have a contract with the CAP. The CAP charges you money to wheel it. So then at the downstream end, whoever you enter into agreement with to pay to treat the water, Scottsdale, there is that expense as well. So that's how it works for the Harquahala water. Best estimate's probably 2024, 2025 before that water starts moving, but it could take longer than that as well.
Thank you, Jen. And then I have a comment in response of, I think, something Jen touched on. It says that Jen's comment stating there are 4,100 parcels compromising the Rio Verde foothills. What standard or threshold will the Board of Supervisors use regarding the total number of parcels? And they give an example. Will you, or is there some written policy regulation that demands the needs be based on a certain percentage of parcels that have signed the DWID petition? I can tell you from a staff standpoint that I'm not aware of any statute. I know the county doesn't have any specific policy that a certain percentage of parcels have to sign up for the DWID in order for the vote to go one way or another. Again, I think most people are pretty well educated on the fact that what's being proposed is a non-contiguous DWID. So a traditional DWID, 51% of the community has to, 51% of the parcels have to sign up, and then everyone is included in the DWID. What's being proposed now is non-contiguous, so only those who choose to be part of the DWID will be in the DWID. If that answers that question. Next question. Currently, Global and EPCOR only pull wells in our subdivision and have no way to receive an outside water source directly to our community. What protection would private well owners have if Global or EPCOR affected our well production?
That's a good question. I don't have all the answers for it. I know ADWR, before you can drill a new well, you have to do an analysis of how that will impact the aquifer, but I can get you some more detailed information on that. Not sure there are other outside water sources besides Harquahala that are available. I can't speak to EPCOR or Global's water portfolio, but currently Harquahala water can only be accessed by a government entity, like a city. A DWID is a government entity. The private water companies like EPCOR can't access the Harquahala water to transport it here. There is a state statute there is a bill right now to change state statute that would allow a private water company to move that water outside of the Harquahala basin.
Thank you, Jen. If the DWID is not approved, what is your confidence that an alternative will provide us water starting in 2023? And there are interim solutions. I know Karen and her group have discussed interim solutions. Scottsdale has made the comments that we've mentioned previously. And so I think even with alternative solutions, there might need to be an interim solution in the meantime. And there are some sources of water available on a temporary basis that might make up that interim solution. But we certainly understand that needs to be part of a solution, that if Scottsdale hasn't swayed from their notice that they plan on cutting the water off. And so we understand that there needs to be a solution in place before a longer term solution, as Supervisor Galvin mentioned, is found, whether that's an alternative or the DWID.
Yeah, I can just provide a follow-up. So we've said this at other meetings, the county under state statute isn't able to be a water provider, but throughout this process, county under Supervisor Chicory, now under Supervisor Galvin, it was looking at a variety of different options, which is what happened out in New River when when City of Phoenix shut off water hauler access to the hydrants. And in that case, the EPCOR has a standpipe out by Anthem. There is some discussion that that was a limited term, a 10-year standpipe, or 20. The information that we have is that EPCOR in some cases has said they didn't intend that to be temporary. There's a lot of questions around if that really does have a time frame or not. One thing is when you are a private utility, which is different than cities, is that you are governed by the Arizona Corporation Commission, which all of us vote for, the commissioners. And I am not part of the Arizona Corporation Commission, but there is a process for setting a rate for a standpipe. There's a process for turning off a standpipe. So people certainly would have any representation regarding loss of water.
I'm going to provide a little bit of background on the Corporation Commission since I used to work there. Whenever a private utility company wants to change their rates, they literally have to file a rate case with the Corporation Commission, which is composed of 5 members elected statewide. It is a litigated case. It's very much like a trial where they have to provide evidence to show what their costs are and the reasons and the arguments for, let's say, that rate increase. These rates are called tariffs. So if they provide water through a standpipe, it's through a standpipe tariff. They would have to get approval for that rate. And you, as constituents, if you ever appear before the Corporation Commission, if there's a case affecting you, you are able to provide feedback, information, evidence, letters, what have you, emails, and to provide evidence why you believe that rate should be, let's say, lower. And the other thing is, once a private water company is delivering water, it cannot stop doing it. Like what happened with you in the city of Scottsdale, where the city of Scottsdale is like, well, we're going to cut you off on December 31. A private company could not do that. The Corporation Commission would not allow that to happen. The only way that that could happen is if the Corporation Commission actually allowed that to happen, and obviously through feedback from their constituents.
Okay, next question. If a government entity has access to the Harquahala water, why can't Scottsdale do it for us with no DWID?
So, I can't speak to Scottsdale, but Scottsdale, their obligation is to Scottsdale residents. And they have put in their drought plan that when there's a tier 1 shortage, they will stop water hauling outside of their city limits.
Okay, the next comment question. I own a 2.5 acre parcel at 168th Street in Lone Mountain. I am 1 to 2 months away from building a home. Should I freeze this project due to the water uncertainty? And this is one of the questions that I've heard from residents, especially some of the people who have bought homes more recently out here in Rio Verde, who weren't aware of the water uncertainty issue out here. And this is why it is such a pressing issue, and this is why it's been top priority from the county, because I think there are many residents in the Rio Verde Foothills who are asking themselves the same thing about future projects, about homes that they've just purchased, and this is exactly speaks to why this is a priority issue for the county.
I want to answer that as well, because that is an excellent question. Because the other thing I realized after I got appointed just less than 2 months ago is that all of you have different situations in your lives, right? Life goes on. Just because this situation had to do a reset with a new supervisor doesn't mean that situations you're facing, like this person with their 2.5 acre parcel, doesn't happen. So that's one of the reasons why all of us here standing up in front of you are working so hard on this, because I know that this is not something that can take years to resolve. And when I said it earlier before, I feel really bad that you've had to deal with this for years. And this is why I'm working with all sense of urgency. So questions like that, you don't have to lie awake at night worrying about things like that.
Okay, next question. Is there a legal path for Maricopa County to purchase water from Harquahala Valley and then sell or give that water to a private utility like EPCOR or Global?
We don't have a final opinion on that, but what I can share is we currently do not see a legal path forward for us to buy water and deliver it to someone, to another entity.
So can you give us a little more, so you don't see something at this point in time, what you see as things that you can try going forward, what things have you exhausted that explain what you're.
So what I mean by that, there is nothing in statute currently that would let us buy water. So if there was a statutory change, that may happen. But there's nothing that allows us to buy water and give it to EPCOR, or buy water and give it to Global. So the statutes for the county have to expressly give us the ability to do something as a subdivision of the state.
Next card. Our aquifer is declining. What hydrology studies have been done which prove that using our aquifer exclusively will not affect people's own wells in our community? And if the studies have been done, where can we find them?
That's a question that we'll do a follow-up on. I know that most of the studies that I'm aware of are dated, but we can follow up to see what plans ADWR has for the area.
Yeah, I know. My knowledge of the aquifer has really been from feedback from you all. So I think a study would help tremendously. It is my understanding that entities like EPCOR or Global do not have the ability to get outside water to our community. Is this true?
Yeah, I think we answered that before. There is other water sources. They currently cannot get Harquahela water here, but there's a pending bill.
That means they cannot get that water physically
They cannot physically get Harquahela water here.
any water. They can't physically get any water.
It depends on where you physically.
How are they gonna physically get it?
So EPCOR has different turnouts. They also have a turnout over there, and then Global currently has wells and a standpipe.
They literally have all wells.
Yeah.
There's no way to physically get water.
So what, the important thing to understand is that it's
You can't hear it.
Yeah, I'll repeat it for you, Karen.
if F4 or Global Water buy long-term storage credits, so they can supply water out here. They can't bring that water in. It doesn't matter if it's Harquahela, it doesn't matter what source of water they bring in. The cap canals don't go down to the bottom of the hill.
Actual wet water.
Global water sits in the middle. They can't get outside water. They can only pull from the aquifer and say,
Exchange it for a well.
and exchange it.
So what Karen is saying is that they can't bring in new physical wet water, that the water would be pumped from a well and exchanged.
Yes.
And that's something I will clarify because, and I don't know 100% for sure, but I believe EPCOR has a cap turnout somewhere. So, but they do have a cap turnout, yes. But I will get like the specific info on that.
And so last year,
Here's a microphone.
I don't have the number for last year, but EPCOR pulled out of the ground over 3,000 acre feet at the bottom of the wells. And bear with me, I'm going off the top of my memory here. 614 acre feet were calf exchange water, but over 2,200 acre feet of water were out of our ground. So for all of you that think there's no effect, how many here have had wells dry up, don't have enough water to supply your home, so you're supplementing? I mean, I'm hearing from people every day, we have to protect our aquifer and bring in an outside source. Don't agree to let EPCOR or Global just put another commercial straw in here, guys.
Okay, next question. Could a developer use water from Global or EPCOR to allow for development?
So lot splits don't have to prove a 100-year assured water supply. A developer that would be within EPCOR's service area, EPCOR would have to prove up a 100-year supply. So that is a possibility for, just as it is throughout the state. I don't know about if Global has a large enough CCNN, but possibly for EPCOR.
Okay, next question. What have you learned from Bullhead City, Arizona? They were forced to pay $80 million to kick EPCOR out of their city. And those articles have been shared. The article about Bullhead City, and there are a couple of articles about that were shared with Supervisor Galvin, and I know he read through those in the last week.
Updated to 100 million last week, final decision.
The comment is that it was updated to 100 million last week in the final decision, what they had to pay EPCOR in Bullhead City.
I'm not. Yeah, we'd have to. I'm not familiar with that. I'll put that in the follow-up pile.
Okay, next question. Several members in support of the DWID have received threats of violence and even death threats from some members opposed to the DWID. We fear escalations. Please comment, help us stop it in its tracks and address, especially at the opposition meeting. So it sounds like the request is for us to make mention of civility at the opposition meeting, and I think Supervisor Galvin touched on that in his initial comments, that we need to come together as a community and find consensus on this important issue. Any other comment? If EPCOR puts in more wells by the river, people on top of the hill will one day not be able to get water from their wells. And that's a comment. There's no question with that one. Another comment. The DWID only has till June to present a contract to Scottsdale so we don't get cut off. And we've certainly been made aware of that in the email comments that we've had from everyone, so we are aware of that. EPCOR won't give a long-term contract. Bullhead City just got rid of them for price gouging, and that speaks to the article that was referenced in the last card. Oh, that's fine. Yeah, I got it. Okay, another comment. I think this one has a question at the end. Historically, our previous District 2 champion / District 2 supervisor, advisors from ADWR, etc., made it very clear that we, the property owners desiring a long-term, secure source of water, had to do it for themselves, had to do it for ourselves. The DWID proponents have complied with the Arizona's revised statutes in their formation process. And how can the Board of Supervisors justify standing in the way of its approval to form? So I think we've spoken to that, that the issue is absolutely a priority with Supervisor Galvin and the board, and we're working diligently to get that in front of the board here in the near future. What has happened to Supervisor Chukri's plan for the county to provide water for Rio Verde Foothills? So we've, Supervisor Galvin, I can speak from personal experience as a staff person. From the time the first week that he came in, we started giving him information on the history so that he could start studying the issue. I've even heard from him that he started studying the issue before he even came on board. So he's taken the gavel. We've shared all the work that was done by the previous supervisor and his staff. Jen Pekorski and I were both involved from the very beginning. So luckily we had that knowledge to pass along, and so that he could hit the ground running as best as possible when he came on board.
And just to add, one of the things that he was looking at was this purchase of water, which he's continuing to do, which doesn't look like it's legally possible at this time, but all the other information, all the other sources, all the good information on the DWID. I think you are fast becoming an expert.
Okay, but there was a lawyer working with Mr. Chukri on that, and things are moving ahead, so is that out of the picture altogether?
Michael Pierce, who's been at the previous meetings, he is still engaged. He is engaged through the county attorney's office and is providing advice through the county attorney's office.
So is there any chance that the county could move forward on that?
So the idea to buy the county to buy water and give it to EPCOR, give it to, That is not legally possible at this time.
Okay, the next comment/question I think we've addressed. Tell us why you won't approve the DWID. And we haven't said that we won't approve the DWID. It's still absolutely on the table and being considered with all of the other possible solutions. DWIDs have been approved and used in other communities of the state, Queen Creek, Pinal County, etc. And apparently they are a satisfactory way of obtaining water. That being the case, why the delay in approving the method for the Rio Verde Foothills? And I think that's similar to previous comments that we had, so thank you for the comment. Again, what is the main issue against the DWID? Gotcha. Yeah, attend the next hour and you might hear what the proponents' thoughts are on that. But I think it's been clear. I think both sides have been clear about what they feel the benefits are, and the opponents have been clear about what they feel that some of the concerns are. So, what are the chances that the Board of Supervisors will not approve the DWID and not provide an alternate solution? When can we expect a resolution/decision from the Board of Supervisors? So these are all similar questions. And I think we've addressed this one too. I'll go ahead and read it. Jen comments. Actually, that's a repeat. I apologize.
You passed through one of mine that I don't think you had covered. I asked, what's the chance of you just not approving the DWID and not providing an alternative, leaving us basically dry? Yeah. Oh, that's a different question.
Yeah, that is absolutely unacceptable, okay? It's not, I'm promising you right now, and I'm gonna make every single full faith effort to get a solution here. Now, I can't guarantee it, right? Because there's always something that happens, unintended consequences or unintended events. But that's not the goal. The goal is to find a solution, and the goal is to find it soon. The issue is that Scottsdale's not budging from that December 31 deadline. And if a DWID is formed, I understand fully from Karen and her team that an answer must be come up with soon, because Scottsdale will then need that cap allocation order for September. So, the clock is ticking, but also, you kind of have to lay it out timeline-wise of when you have to have an answer by. So the reason why we're having this meeting, and the reason why I'm meeting every single day with county staff, with Karen and her team, her lawyer, the other folks here, is to get to that answer as soon as possible. And as I said before here earlier today, I just can't believe that you guys have had to deal with this for years, and now it has to happen after Scottsdale has announced the deadline. So I got appointed 2 months ago. The deadline had already been imposed a year earlier. I come in, they basically said, you got 6 months to figure this out, not even, right? So I've had 2 months to learn, to listen, to meet, to talk, to read, to research, to investigate, and also to basically be a devil's advocate, right? I have to see the pros and cons of each issue because I have to understand it completely. But at the same time, I don't have all the time in the world, right? If we didn't have a deadline, I think we could probably maybe move in a little bit more deliberate pace, but at the same time do act with a sense of urgency. But yeah, you absolutely cannot be left in a position where there's no answer because that deadline is coming. Go ahead. Well, I'm going to let her, she's a follow-up.
I was just going to say, because it's been talked about that public welfare is a concern of the DWID, right?
Right.
There's going to be an impact if homes start being abandoned also.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Karen.
And I just want to say, Supervisor Chukri knew about, I had residents send me emails, prior volunteers, and when I say this effort's been going a long time, it started in 2014 and there was a gal named Katie who worked for Supervisor Chukri, and in that email they met with Arizona Department of Water Resources and residents from this community, residents who are here right now in 2014 about this water situation. Back then it was more wells are drying up, what are we gonna do? Scottsdale wasn't part of the issue. But then it snowballed and it's gotten worse with Scottsdale. But Scottsdale has let us know for 5 years. We have had meetings on November 1st, 2016, where it's documented. And in that document from Doug Dunham, who at the time wasn't with EPCOR, was with Arizona Department of Water Resources, guess what the solution, part of the solution was? Either a co-op, we figured that's out, but it was a domestic water improvement district. The really important part is, guys, Scottsdale has notified us forever, and Supervisor Chukri knew for the last 8 years we needed a solution for this community. And what do we not have today? We don't have a solution. Now, my heart goes out to you because now we have a new supervisor, okay? So he's getting caught up. But it's important for him to understand our angst because this has been going on forever. And for God's sakes, we need water for our property.
In light of what Karen said, I'm not gonna address that exactly, but she makes great points there. I consider myself a doer, not a talker. We're gonna get it done, okay?
Okay, so we're just about at our time. I'm looking at a couple of the remaining questions and comments. We'll certainly give those to Supervisor Galvin. I believe in the remaining questions that I see here, I want to assure you that I think we've addressed most of the questions with some of the other cards. I want to thank everyone for being here today. I can say that I'm not surprised to see such a good turnout here today, given the nature of this issue and how important it is to the community. I'm so pleased to see how engaged the community has been on this issue. I think the community is far more educated today than even at the last community meeting that we've had. And I think that's allowed us to move forward, this meeting to help things move forward even more. So thank you for being here, and I'm going to go ahead and give the microphone to Sue. Oh, yes. Okay. And I'll repeat it.
Okay, I think it doesn't have to do with the other camps. I think it has everything to do with the supervisors. What are the alternatives to the DWID? What are the legal alternatives to the DWID?
So the question is,
So if you voted, if we go through this whole process and the supervisors say, I don't think so, then what are we left with? What are the other alternatives and can they be implemented in this time period?
yeah, so her question is, if the DWID isn't approved, what are the alternatives to the DWID?
So I can say what are the most feasible legal alternatives to the DWID as it stands right now is, the DWID, the having Global expand how much water they're providing through their standpipe from a well, or have EPCOR provide the service like they do in New River. Obviously, there are pros and cons. There's pros and cons for all of them. There's pros and cons for each option. There's concerns. Each member of the community has their own opinion on them. But that is the universe of options that exist for water.
But that would be through our aquifer. Those are the aquifers that are associated with the 40 River, correct? Where we will be at the bottom of the run when it comes to ensuring we have some water. Is that not correct?
Well, it depends on how the water delivery occurs, but their Global is off of a well. EPCOR is off of wells. I don't have all the information. That's why we would come back. We would go to Global and EPCOR and ask them, is there a way to get wet water in this community from another source? Those are the kind of questions that would have to be looked at, because those are some of the concerns with those providers. Yeah. And I saw there was one hand up way in the back that's waving.
Then 2, is there transparency? 3, this summer when we were all at Storybook Farms, the county clearly came out and said they understood the DWID wasn't the answer for this community. Don't hate me. And then C, most of the DWIDs that exist today can't fund themselves in perpetuity. So you're either looking at higher taxes or a bigger buy-in.
So it sounds like, so questions, I'll repeat them. She was asking what the business plan is for the DWID. She mentioned that at a previous meeting, the county supervisor at that time said that that he didn't see the DWID as the best option. We have a new supervisor here now. And then also you had comments about the long-term financial costs of the DWID. These meetings were set up for this one to be purely the listening session from the pro-DWID folks, so Supervisor Galvin could better understand all the arguments, such as you're bringing up about the wells. So I think those questions we can work to get an answer for, but I would encourage you to come back at noon for the DWID opponent meeting, because they're here to hear those concerns and questions at that time.
Thank you. And I would invite you to look at the website too. I think Karen and her group have a lot of information there if you're looking for details on specific information on the plan. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and give the microphone to Supervisor Galvin for some final comments as we wrap up.
Thank you, Andy, and thank you, Jen. I think they did a terrific job of answering the questions. And then I want to thank all of you. I really wanted to be here. I was looking forward to this for quite some time. In fact, I wanted to schedule it a week ago, but we were not able to schedule this a week ago. But I'm glad we're able to schedule a time that works for all of us. But a week ago, I did have a check-in meeting with Karen and her team. I've had check-in meetings with the other team. And also, I just want to say is that this meeting went as well as I hoped it would go and as good as I thought it would go. You guys asked terrific questions. Of course, everyone behaved really well. And this is what I wanted. And when I told Jen and Andy and my team that this is how I wanted the format to be, I thought this is a good way of doing it, because you hear all the arguments for a DWID in this hour, and then you're going to hear all the arguments for concerns about people who have the DWID for the next hour. But that's a good way to flesh out these issues. And as you can see, these are really good questions, but there's also some outstanding questions that have to be addressed. So, and also, as you can see, this is all part of my deliberation process. I want to make what I call a fully informed decision. And I want you to have the confidence that I know absolutely what's going on up here. And so one of the ways to do it is to hear it from you directly. Another way to do it, obviously, is to read all of your emails. You know, people have written to me about how they've had house sales fall through. They're concerned. I've had emails from realtors concerned about the real estate market here. So another issue that has come up that we've not yet talked about is property values. So I understand that as well for you guys, okay? I understand that as well. And so obviously with this looming deadline coming, we're going to have a resolution and an answer soon. And so one thing I want you to make sure is that I'm not going to tell anyone what I think they want to hear. I'm going to tell them what I have to say, what I think, what I believe. And I hope the respect goes both ways, and I think so far it has. Okay? Karen and your team, please keep communicating with me and your attorney as well. I'm going to afford the same respect and hour and equal time to that other group. And I think that meeting will go just as well, and I hope you can go. So thank you, everyone. It's great meeting you, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.